I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zeiss Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark. Hello, everyone.
And welcome to Linda's Adventures, Skull and Shackles Part 5. Part 5, an episode that takes place during Part 3 of Skull and Shackles.
Book 3,
we did all sorts of stuff.
There were lots of hijinks and shenanigans in Skull and Shackles.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much so, and we were in such a complicated and convoluted bit of yak shaving right now that we actually have to go back a bit because there was some yak shaving that we had forgotten about.
Yeah, so like when we ended the last one, we had gotten ourselves confused about the order of events, and so we just had to kind of bring it to a close. So we're going to be rewinding a little bit to show what happened back in time and get a coherent narrative on the top of this yak shaving. And yak shaving, if it's is a term, if you're not familiar with it, basically for those kinds of quests where it's like you need to do this task, and then once you do this task, it's going to show you, oh yes, now here's the next task that you need to do in the chain. So it's like, oh well, I need you to recover the amulet that belongs to my aunt, so you can give her the amulet, and it is like, ah yes, you've given me the amulet. Now that reminds me of a time that I once was in this town, and I heard these people talking about the thing that you care about. So go talk to them, and then those people are like, oh yes, well, we're talking about this, but we actually heard the rumors from people over in this other city, so you should go over there.
It's apparently coined turned into a computer term by the MIT Media Lab, but I think it was already an RPG term before that. So I'm looking it up to try to see what was the origin of it. Oh no, but it says the origin was was CSAIL, from a Ren and Snippy episode.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Going to top noted source of scholarship and accurate information, UrbanDictionary.com.
And Wiktionary.
And Wiktionary is like a little more.
And also all the other things said that that's when it became a computer term, but I wasn't sure if the computer term came first. Because it also said, this one of the sites said 5 years ago, but it was actually an old site.
Yeah. So
that's what yak shaving
basically
is.
Any World of Warcraft question.
Yak shaving is the weird, pointless task that you are doing right now that is completely unrelated, with no obvious relationship to what you actually want to do, but still needs to be performed before you can do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That is yak shaving. And yes, exactly. It's a lot of RPGs use yak shaving as a way to motivate whatever their plot is.
It can be used to showcase
both in computer games like open world and railroaded RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Although railroaded ones use it a little less often because of the fact that they're so railroaded they can just do whatever they want. But the more that you have sub options, but you only have like one big thing that motivates you, like we've got to stop the Dark Lord. Now you can do whatever you want in the open world. The more you sometimes wind up with yak shaving, where it's like, well, the only thing we know you want to do is stop the Dark Lord because you could just do whatever you want. So we're going to put this yak shaving in your way of something you need to stop the Dark Lord.
I mean, at its best, yak shaving is a chance to showcase different aspects of different aspects of and locations in the world that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten a chance to see, and to make the story richer and to change up the pace. At its worst, it just feels like a frustrating series of endless fetch quests that stand in the way between you and your objective.
Yep, and leads to the characters getting snarky, like in when we were playing Curse of the Crimson Throne, there was like a Shoanti yak shaving that was so intense that we just got to another person and we're like, hey, we're gonna try to do this thing for you, but let me guess. Even though you have no reason not to just do it, you need us to do some pointless, unrelated task before you can do it. It's like, yes, how did you know?
Sometimes the fourth wall is more obvious than others.
I mean, that wasn't even the fourth wall. Our characters were just genuinely frustrated because we had gone to like a yak shaving recursion depth of like 5. Where we were doing a task that was 5 steps removed from what we wanted to be doing. Because sometimes, like, you could have yak shaving where it's like, I have a goal, so now I shave the yak here, but then I get back and I'm going towards my goal, and then I shave the yak here, then I get back. But sometimes, like, in Curse, it was an onion of yak shaving, where it's like, I have this goal, but to get there, I have to shave the yak.
But
to get there, I have to shave the yak. But to get there, I have to shave the yak. But to get there, I have to shave the yak.
So it'd be like, in order to succeed at my primary goal, I have to do this side thing. But in order to do this side thing, I have to do this other thing.
Yeah, so it'd be like, I want to defeat the Dark Lord. To do that, though, the sword of Dark Lord defeating is the grand prize at the fishing contest, which I have to win. But I can't even get into the fishing contest without a fishing license, which I can only get from an old sailor who wants to kill a white whale, and he'll give me his fishing contest reward.
But
to get to the white whale, I need a boat.
Yes.
And the old sailor doesn't have it. His boat was killed by the white whale. So the only way I can get a boat is if I get it from the merchant in town who has a boat. But that merchant is not just going to give over the boat unless
because I don't have enough money.
Yes, and he needs me to earn him money because I don't have the money to buy it by working at his store. But in order to work at his store, I need a merchant's license from the Merchants Guild. But in order to get a merchant's license for the Merchants Guild, I have to get the Merchants Guild leader's granddaughter her favorite cookies. But the problem is that those require sprinkles from the pixies.
Yes.
And
the baker is out of pixie dust, so we need to go to the forest.
Go to the Fey Forest.
But the problem is that the pixies have moved around. So in order to find out where they are right now, we have to befriend the trackers of the forest.
Yep. And so on. So that's
we could keep doing this for an entire episode.
That's an example of sort of recursive yak shaving, where the recursion depth gets so deep that the players just forget mostly why they were doing anything, and some of that happened in Skull and Shackles Part 3. It wasn't quite that deep, but it had multiple lines of yak shaving recursion that intersected. We've untangled those, and now you have a lesson on yak shaving.
But the forest tracker has gone missing, and only his brother knows.
But we were going to do the Skull Shackles Part 3, but first we had to do a yak shaving explanation. And also, let's recap who the PCs are. I know that we've done some of these episodes close together, so a lot of you who are watching this right now might be able to rattle off the names of all the PCs, but we'll do it again because some people may have just tuned in. So,
GMPCs are Tethys Kybali, Herod Medium, who is a false medium by trade, and a compulsive liar who is a tall tale storyteller.
Yep. It's not like she has to lie if you just ask her a question, but she always embellishes. Anything. Any tale that has anything that could be remotely considered to be a tale, she will not tell the truth. She's got to embellish something. And also, it's important that we've called her a compulsive liar a lot, but it's not like she's going to lie by making something completely not what it was.
Yeah.
She just wants to make it better.
Yes.
Better than reality by just this is cooler than what actually happened. Like, that's why she had problems with some of our larger than life exploits, because like someone who just wanted to lie, she could have told a story that was less impressive.
That's true. Yeah.
Or that was just differently impressive in some ways, but she wanted to make it cooler or better. And she was like, but if I do that, it's going to be really unbelievable because it's already unbelievable.
She couldn't bear to tell a story that wasn't embellished.
Yes.
So what she had to do is like not tell some of your stories so that she could embellish other ones in different ways.
Yep.
We also had the other GMPC is Aram Wetfoot, a halfling hydrokineticist who is a major asset to their crew for his control over water. He's basically our entire fleet destroying secret weapon. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, sink the sea and then carefully barrage with long range weapons that do not put a risk of damaging the merchandise. That's right. And everything is the merchandise. And everything is the merchandise when you're a pirate. Arr! Arr. And then the other three PCs that we had... Oh, yeah, and Aram talks to sharks. Aram talks to sharks, yes. And the Red Mantis don't like him, but they also think he's dead, so he's okay. Yep. The other three PCs are Hector and Rin Ilium, brother and sister
children of Andromeda Ilium, a made up by me, former ex-dead admiral from Cheliax, who shipwrecked on Hasmani's Grotto, a very dangerous island with a very dangerous Rusalka, possibly due to sabotage by other Chalish Navy people, who knows, where they eventually escaped and made it to Besmar's throne, and Rin was decided by the priestess of Besmara there, the high priestess, was chosen of Besmara for something great, one of the campaign traits. Rin being the captain and very, very faithful to Besmara, Hector being a shaman of the waves who doesn't know his wave spirit is Besmara, and is pretty skeptical of Besmara.
The wave spirit being Pontus, the
very... Oh, no, that is his spirit animal.
Yes.
Spirit animal is Pontus, the very important side-pull dragon, who is the emissary of the sea. Linda just laughs anytime I say emissary of the sea.
Because Pontus is just...
But he is the emissary of the sea.
I know, but Pontus is best familiar.
Okay. And Farusa, who's like, is the familiar of Rin, who is a coral capuchin, and they get into lots of little scuffles with each other. Meanwhile, the final character, Antiope, Mr. Tai, she is a brawler who likes to beat things up and fight in different combat styles, and is exasperated by how many prostitutes we beat in this campaign.
Yes.
Because, that's the one thing she doesn't like. And we're going to go back to Yak Shaving to explain that we had met with additional prostitutes.
Yes. Sounds good.
Okay.
So we at this point are in part 3 of the adventure path, or volume 3, just
That's
for
right.
confusion. Probably should try not to say that too much. Which is Tempest Rising, and the PCs at this point. Now they had already somewhat earlier done the part of the adventure path where you become a free captain.
Yep.
When they went to Port Peril and they
That's
said, "Hey,
that's how we missed this Yak Shaving a little bit." Because last time, if you were just watching this, especially if this was on YouTube, which, hey, that's good, and you were just watching this, you heard us saying, oh, yeah, there were wreckers, and, Rin was like, oh, we'll just go right through their trap. But it was actually...
You had a little bit more of a reason than that.
It was both more and less wild than that, because we had a reason, but also, we were looking for those wreckers who were trying to wreck your ship with using illusions. We did not encounter them randomly, as we found out.
Now, that's hard to remember sometimes,
Yes.
because the number of things that I've had you guys encounter randomly is very, very high.
Well, I mean, and we were just zigzagging around the Shackles. We could have run into their trap randomly, but we didn't. Because Tessa Fairwind, who is a very, very powerful pirate lord who worships Desna, and in the Lost Omens World Guide, has canonically become the new Hurricane Queen, but at the time was not, but was didn't like the Hurricane King.
Yeah.
Was supposed to meet with us right after we became a free captain, but the timing is off because we became a free captain early.
Yeah, I didn't want to kick off the whole plot line of part 3 just yet, because I knew that changed the tone of the campaign a little bit. So I wanted to give them more time to just sort of be like, we're pirates and we're free captains now.
Piracy.
But the plot does eventually decide that it wants to progress, and so they received an invitation.
Must flow.
The plots must flow. Yes, they received an invitation from Tessa Fairwind to meet her at her manor in Quent.
That's right. And we had already talked to her there before, but not about this.
Yes.
Because she had some offers to make and some problems to talk about.
So, and at this point also, she knew that the PCs had seen that the Hurricane King wasn't really at his best, so she subtly, not so subtly, brought up in conversation, it's like, yeah, the Hurricane King has really not been his old self lately. It seems like he's not really inspiring people in the way that he used to. It sure would be nice if there was someone around who was able to inspire people like that.
She seemed
she was
most people like she was trying to set herself up to overthrow the Hurricane King, but Rin took that in a different direction because Rin thought that what Tessa was saying is that the Hurricane King had lost the favor of Besmara
Mm-hmm.
by just being this like angry, sullen guy who is just yelling at everybody and not
Instead
doing
of going
the
out on
piracy.
adventures himself, yeah.
And that Rin, who had the Pearl of Besmara and was chosen by Besmara, may have been chosen to be able to help lead and defend the Shackles against upcoming threats that the Hurricane King could not handle. That's what she thought.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so Tessa also told us about the fact that there have been rumors that the Chelish Navy was planning a big assault.
But Tessa didn't want to go poking around in those herself because she, in order to bring things to the Pirate Council and the Hurricane King, she needed to have actual evidence. But she herself is a very obvious face. Not that the PCs hadn't been making a name for themselves, but people would be looking at her as someone who was potentially just trying to overthrow the Hurricane King.
She's very partisan.
Yeah.
And I think all of us watching this know that if you're in a deliberative body that has like two sides, which are like the Hurricane King's loyalists here and the Tessa people, there's a third side. But if you have a very partisan person bringing you facts, it's very easy to just ignore the obvious facts and claim that it's not true. And that's a pretty realistic plot contrivance in the AP there. That definitely happens. And that's
So
what
she
she
wants
was
the
worried
PCs
about.
to do that
because
instead, yeah.
the PCs are seen to be these weird new neutral people who are pretty neutral and aren't obviously Tessa loyalists.
But she did offer you the ability to fly her pennant if you wanted to join her, and then just asked you to not fly it necessarily while you were doing these investigations.
Until after we brought the information to the council, which we refused because Rin wants to have her own fleet. She doesn't want to be part of someone else's fleet, and also she thought Tessa was intimating that Rin needs to become the Hurricane Queen, and not that Tessa needs to become the Hurricane Queen. That's just what Rin took out of it, and was very sure.
Yes. And Tessa was not terribly surprised based on what she'd heard of you guys that you guys refused that offer. It was more of an offer that was made of like a just in case you guys want this.
Right.
I'd be happy to have you guys join my fleet, and then you guys are like no, and she's like yes.
And I think that the idea was that like everything Tessa had tried to do so far had been thwarted, but that she knew that that the Callistrians at the House of Stolen Kisses.
Yeah, she knew.
Might have more information as well as maybe some of the Nordor.
Yeah, she basically her investigations that she'd been able to do without being obvious hadn't really succeeded yet. But she said, okay, well, there's two places that you should go that are going to be more obvious, gather information places. But she hadn't wanted to go to either of those because places that are great at gathering information also are great at figuring out what you're up to.
I mean, especially the Reaper of Reputation.
Yeah. So the House of Stolen Kisses and
Plus, she wanted to make us do the yak shaving.
Yes. I mean, yes, she didn't want to do all that either. But there's House of Stolen Kisses in Quent, the Temple of Callistria, and she gave you a note to obtain an audience with the High Priestess Dindrian there. And there's also the Temple of the Hidden Name, the secret temple of Norgerber on the set to operate in the town of Beachcomber on Bag Island.
That's right. The halfling island of very anti-slavery halflings who had escaped from slavery in Cheliax.
Yes. And she gave you the charts of the Fairwinds.
Yes.
From Tessa Fairwind.
It really was named that.
Yes. A magical
Pontus
map.
thought that was a good name and that that you should name items like that.
Hector disagreed. So you had two primary leads to start with here. The House
One
of
of which
Stolen
was
Kisses
like
branch.
literally 5 to 10 minutes away from where we were eating with Tessa, and the other of which was on an entirely different island. So it's no surprise to anyone that we did go to the one that was right there
As much as Ty grumbled and thought that you shouldn't go at all to this place, and definitely refused to go herself. You guys went to the House of Stolen Kisses. where you informed the High Priestess Dindrian that you were looking for spies in the Shackles, and she of course was like, well, I might know something, but I need you to do something for me first, because there is vengeance to be had. One of the temple's ships, the Lady Sting, had gone missing. And divinations indicated that it was hit by a group of wreckers. And the trouble, of course,
that we mentioned last time.
is that when it comes to wreckers, just our ship got wrecked somewhere in the Shackles, but we're not sure which by wreckers. And it's at the bottom of the sea, and so is the Golden Vespel, a relic that's aboard it. It's not necessarily easy to find. But there was another group of people that the PCs had an ability to talk to at this point in time, and that was the Temple of the Hidden Name.
Yep.
On Bag Island.
They might know more. But meanwhile, also Dindrian tried to flirt with everybody, which, as usual with Hector, caused him to get, like, bad vibes from his time on Hesbani's Grotto, and he definitely got out of there. Tethys decided she wanted to come back here because she liked the place.
Yeah. So
after that, she also said that she thought that the halflings on Bag Island would know where to find it. It wasn't just that we were like, oh, well, I guess we'll ask these halflings.
No, she said too, like, if anybody knows weird secrets, it's going to be them.
Yep.
And I do remember that you did ask people several times, like, why didn't you do this? And they're like, we're busy. We don't want to go on a chasing quest around the Shackles. And you're like, well, why should we do it?
It's like, yeah, we did ask that. It's like, if this got sunk and you want revenge, why didn't you go talk to Norgorbrides?
It's like, it's a pain. Now, I owe them a favor.
Mendokte.
Yep, pretty much. So you guys went to the hidden warehouse, where you met the not creepy at all halflings who were all wearing identical cherubic masks. And
that wasn't creepy.
And of course they're all like, well, the Reaper of Reputation knows much that is hidden, but all information comes with a price. It's like, okay. So they told you that that the famous ship called the Brine Banshee mysteriously disappeared several months ago.
That's why we went to the Brine Banshee, which had those 50 encounters near.
Well, it disappeared near the. So you guys knew then that, like, well, maybe the House of Stolen Kisses would know something about this, or maybe we could just find it ourselves.
And we decided to find it ourselves. That's why we went to the place that had the surgeon from it and stole the ring from Milksop Morton and all the other things we said last time that we did, where we tricked him and then stole his ring flat out without fighting him, to get to the Brine Banshee. And then there was the merfolk and the sharks and the horrible giant sea creature and everything else that was down there. There was a reason. It wasn't just to get the really cool steering wheel, which we did like, but it was also because the Norgorbrides demanded it. Demanded
that as payment in order for them to tell you about where to find the Lady Sting.
And also they had some information about the quest overall. So they gave us some of the information and the Lady Sting's location, and then we went, and that's where we fought the Mirage.
Yes.
And we got the Golden Vespel of Calistria. We went back to the brothel, the House of Stolen Kisses.
Yes.
And brought the Golden Vespel there. And then at that point, the Calistrians told us that it was time for more yak shaving.
Yes. And they told you about a half-elf scrimshander in Drenchport named Jameis Keft. Also, when you said that the Reaper of Reputation folks gave you more information, they also told you about the location of some Nagas.
That's right.
On the Slytherin coast.
Because they didn't have the info, even though they definitely implied that they had it. But they thought maybe some Nagas might know
like, oh,
something.
yes, well, the Nagas of the Slytherin coast. Go to a hillock with a lone tree where there is a where there's a Naga who knows more about spies. It's like, really? You didn't know more? And they're like, we didn't ever technically tell you that we knew more, or that we didn't know more, but go talk to this person.
And so we decided that a Naga who randomly knows about spies seemed less reasonable than someone in Drenchport, which is actually up north near to Cheliax, and
has a pirate lord who is a super powerful druid.
Yep, who can get the master of gales.
Yes.
That seemed like someone who actually probably knew about things, so we decided to check there first with that contact.
The damp and gloomy city of Drenchport on Tempest Cay.
It's always a storm in Tempest Cay because it's close to the eye.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have a druid who can control weather and make it so that it's even possible to live there, but it probably would be even more troublesome if he wasn't casting weather rituals all the time.
To make it so it's not, like, literally flooding all the time.
Or maybe he makes the storms worse.
Or maybe he makes them worse.
So that,
yeah. He does make the storms worse in some places to make it really hard for people to approach, and then he teaches his own people how to properly approach the island.
Mm-hmm.
And or if you're like a pirate, but like the point is that, like, if Chelish if the Chelish Navy wanted to attack there, they would have a bad time.
I mean, the Eye of Bendigo makes it hard for the Chelish Navy overall.
Mm-hmm.
But we did go there and we met with that guy in Drenchport, and he basically actually had heard of a spy for the Chelish who was, like, living on the beach.
Yeah.
In a random shack.
It's like, yeah, I can tell you about this guy. It wasn't that hard. You were able to purchase some scrimshaw from him. You actually also got your scrimshaw guy to talk to this scrimshaw guy, which made things easier.
Yeah, we had Jack Scrimshaw.
It's like, oh yeah, we have another scrimshaw guy.
His
Here,
name
you two
includes
talk.
Scrimshaw, so we just used that to butter him up.
Yep. After some beer and some, like, overly detailed conversations about Scrimshaw, during which the PCs disappeared and just let those two NPCs talk for a while.
We don't care about Scrimshaw.
Then, you learned about Haddon Pike's shack on the beach. And you found Haddon Pike, unfortunately.
Or what was left of him.
He was not in any state to tell you. Because, as I said at the beginning of this video, this episode has both. I suppose this one part wasn't on YouTube, but people asked, is there going to be skulls and shackles? There are indeed skulls and shackles, because Haddon Pike has met a rather grisly end. He's been shot in the back by a crossbow, and his face has been put into the tank of his piranha-like fish.
Yep.
So the PCs did see his skull. Clutched in his hand.
Some of the many Mwangi Expanse / Garundi piranhas, which, like, why are there piranhas in Fantasy Africa?
There just are.
There always are.
Yep. So he was holding a piece of dripwood carved to resemble a tengu.
Dun dun dun.
And the PCs determined that he'd been dead for about a week. And he'd been shot through the back. And they also found an old Chelish opera written in Infernal, which they realized was weird because the old style opera shouldn't have been written in Infernal. That was pre-Thrune. Yep. And they were eventually able
Hector knew that as the eldest child of an admiral who was in Cheliax. He had the beginnings of a proper Chelish upbringing. Not that he wasn't as equally as skeptical of that as he is the Besmara here.
Yes.
He's just a very skeptical shaman in general, but he was very surprised by this fact and did know how to read the Infernal. And so he figured that there was something off about this. Yeah.
So he took a closer look at it as the party's resident repository
only person
of
with a high
all int-based skills,
and all wisdom-based skills.
And he took it to Bethany the Rogue, from the Bethany and Velverisa team that were some of their most trusted folks, because Bethany also had some knowledge of languages, and together the two of them spent some time down in the hold doing stuff that other PCs thought were boring, which was carefully analyzing the language, and eventually they managed to crack a code.
That's right.
And determine that
if Hector and like a female NPC go down in the hold and spend some time doing stuff, it's generally like cryptography or some other kind of int-based skill.
Yes, that's true. Or maybe they would be repairing some damage to a ship.
Yep. Or cooking.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So they determined that these instructions were telling Hadon to report on the movement of ships visiting Derengeport. And they mentioned a woman named Rowena Kellett on Devil's Arches as a contact.
Who I think is like a important harbor master on Devil's Arches.
Yes.
Which is not great for...
Which you guys actually knew from your...
that pirate lord.
You guys actually knew from your sort of... From your general knowledge of pirates, which I think you roll profession pirate on this at this time to be like, oh crap, that's the quartermaster of the...
Or something like that, some position.
Harbor quartermaster.
Harbor quartermaster, that's what it was.
So he's the harbor quartermaster.
And not only does Rin have very high profession sailor and know a lot about pirates, but also like Hector and Rin, or Hector at least, Rin was very young. Hector has met Endymion before he was a pirate lord, barely, when he was very little, because Endymion was a Chelish admiral who, after like a Thrunish official who was very high ranked, had like forced himself on Endymion's wife, and Endymion tried to give a like an honorable challenge against this guy. That guy basically trumped up like fake charges and had Endymion exiled, and then he became a pirate lord.
So Endymion's general feelings toward the Chelish Navy are
they can be best summarized. They can be best summarized by a finger.
Yes,
it's not this finger.
That's true.
But also one of his important, the harbor master's quartermaster is apparently on the take from Cheliax. Not great for him. So we got that information from this non-Naga guy that we found here. But it was still time to check with our Naga.
Yes. Because the Nagas might have known some additional stuff after all.
Yep.
So they're like, okay, maybe these random Nagas, like, it's like, this seems really implausible, this seems really far-fetched. Hector is like,
why would a Naga know something, and why would the halflings know that a Naga knew something?
Yeah, and Hector is like, why? This is a waste of time, they're just messing with us, and Rin is like, quest?
Yep. So we went...
Rin has some commonalities with Quest Sprout. I mean, she's not nearly as young and innocent and precious, but like...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know how old Quest Sprout is.
Well, Quest Sprout in some of the earlier comics is shown like with Quest Sprout's parent and stuff like that.
Fair enough.
Probably not that old. So you guys go to so now is the time of the yak shaving where you need to deal with the relationship problems of Nagas.
That's right. Everyone knew when we were hired by Tessa Fairwind to find spies for the Chalish that Naga relationship problems was going to be one of the things we need to... I mean, that's really related, right? It's definitely not yak shaving.
So the Naga Sarlis, you go to her and she's like...
Yeah, we try to contact her because the Norgo rights implied that if we did that, we would get the information, and she's like, she had a bad breakup.
She's like, I had a bad breakup.
He got the house. And
I had a bad breakup, and my ex won't leave one of my caves, and I need him gone, and I'm not going to tell you anything until you get rid of my ex, but don't kill him, because I actually still kind of like him.
Yep.
And the PCs are like, seriously? She's like, or I could just bite you. And they're like, okay, fine. We'll go talk to this ex, but your information better be good. So they eventually managed to convince the Naga Munare, her ex, that he should move out of this area.
Yep. We also...
It's like, go find another cave, please. Just...
Yep. We also told him he should probably try to make up with his ex because he was being a jerk. but we eventually convinced him to move out
Mm-hmm.
without violence, but only the threat of violence.
Yes. Just the threat of violence. That satisfied. Sarlis just didn't want you to kill him.
Yep. It would have been okay to knock him out and just drag him somewhere. But
that's true.
We used the threat of violence.
So, Sarlis repaid your deed by showing you to a corpse who had been of a person who had been very bothersome to her and asking annoying questions. And it's like you were asking unwise questions that only the people like the ones you seek would ask. So only like the spies would ask. Go do what you want with his body. His body might know something with magic, or some of his papers may have something. I don't really care. So you guys.
We also asked her, so you just found this corpse? She's like, yeah. She's like, have you told anyone that you found this corpse? No.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there. Nobody knows that I found this corpse. How did halflings know that you found this corpse? Or had this information? No, they don't know. Nobody knows. I just had this corpse. So they just sent us here randomly hoping that you would have this information.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I don't know.
The Reaper of Reputation works in mysterious ways.
Norgorber knows all.
Norgorber knows all
secrets.
All secrets.
They may have literally used divinations to Norgorber to get the information. It is possible that they lied to us that they had information, sent us on the Brian Banshee quest, and then quickly used as many divinations as possible so that they could say some random yak shaving thing to us that sounded like they knew.
I mean, that's totally what Norgorber writes in the Reaper of Reputation would do. And if that was what they did, they wouldn't tell you.
That's true.
That would be a secret.
It seems very likely, just because, like, the Naga couldn't imagine any way that they would have possibly actually done this.
Yep.
So, alright, we got this guy's papers, and,
well, the papers themselves had been,
pretty destroyed, right?
Had been pretty destroyed. But he had a bunch of knots.
That's right.
On his papers. Yeah, there were a bunch of, not his papers, but knots of rope that themselves were part of a Sargovan naval code.
Right. It was like a kind of Morse code in the knots that was a Sargovan naval code that can be deciphered into letters and spelled things out.
Because the original AP had said that this guy had been dead for like a super duper long time. But while that like technically worked in the timeline, it made the Chelish plot progress at a rate that was a little slow for my taste. So I changed things around a little bit with the order of information and how things had been found out, which led to what Mark was just saying there. It's like, how did they know? They must have done these shenanigans. But you were able to decipher the code, and it asked this person to deliver the poisoned information to the captain of the Diamond Star.
Dun dun dun.
And you knew that the captain of the Diamond Star, Elise Farhaven, had retired to Quent.
Dun dun dun.
It was like, all right, we're gonna go back to Quent now.
Yep. So I think we then went back to Quent.
Yes, you went back to Quent.
And tried to figure out what was going on with that captain. We wanted to go there before we went to Drenchport. Or not that. Before we went to Devil's Arches.
Before you went to Devil's Arches. It's a nice,
Demion's
safer place to go to anyway. So you guys went there, and you had a chance to try to talk to her. At least you thought. But she wasn't there.
Nobody's ever there.
There was a dead imp, and you were able to search her area and figure out that she had run away, and she hadn't been able to take most of her stuff with her, just like the valuable stuff. And there was a message in a bottle that had her most recent instructions, which were to report to a particular address in Hell's Harbor. And at this point, of course, Rin is like, multiple leads are telling us to go to Hell's Harbor. That means Besmara needs us to go to Hell's Harbor.
And Hector says, or it just means that the answer to the mystery is in Hell's Harbor. And therefore the forensic evidence is leading to
Besmara! This is like Skull and Shackles chibi.
It's like the buddy pirate thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the pirates is very practical.
You know, like those anime that have that also have like their spin-off chibi versions, because that's totally what I like to imagine sometimes, just like the cute parody of campaigns, and that's definitely what happens with Chibi Hector and Chibi Rin in a lot of these conversations.
Says Chibi Hector. So they did go at this point to Hell's Harbor.
Yes.
To Endymion's place. They had an address. They had the name of the harbor quartermaster, who was another spy.
Yes, they did.
And they decided that it was time to heist the harbor quartermaster and also find out about that address.
Mm-hmm.
So, when they went to heist the harbor quartermaster, they basically distracted her with some of their team, while the rest of the team invisibly stole a bunch of her ledgers.
So, as in the AP as initially written, she has also already been dead. But I decided it would be more interesting if she was alive and there to serve as someone to complicate the process. So, you guys then had to heist the warehouse, instead of having like her and all of her stuff, because her and all of her stuff were still in place. But you were able to distract her, and then send some of your sneakier halflings and tieflings in to. I guess I probably haven't mentioned recently that Tethys is a tiefling, but she is.
Yeah, she is. I think Tethys is part of Team Grift.
Yes.
But
so Tethys is part of Team Grift, and then you definitely Farusa and Aram were part of Team Steel Stuff.
Yep.
So you were able to grab a ledger that had listings of the names of numerous pirate lords in the Shackles with large numbers beside them. Except one of them had a dash next to it, and that was Endymion's name simply had a dash.
So the group decided that what this was the amount of money that Cheliax thought it would take to bribe those pirate lords, and the dash meant that Endymion was unbribable.
Mm-hmm.
There was no explanation, and Tessa said she even suspected Endymion because he was formerly a Chelsea Admiral. Maybe he's trying to get back in their good graces. Hector knew about how much Endymion got screwed over by Cheliax and did not really suspect him. And so, therefore, that's what he deduced that this ledger probably meant.
And as a matter of fact, the PCs decided that they were going to go to Endymion with this.
Yep.
Information.
Which could be bad if Dash meant he's already on our side. We don't have to bribe him.
Mm-hmm. Endymion was certainly willing to meet with them. He did vaguely remember the children. He did remember the children of one of the admirals that he had.
He definitely knew that
Andromeda
Ilium's children are named Hector and Myrine Ilium.
But what he didn't realize is that the pirates Hector and Rin, that were slowly gathering fame, were necessarily these people.
We did ride on a ship called the Andromeda.
And you did ride in a ship called the Andromeda, just to make fun of that.
And also because it's their mother's name.
Yeah, but he didn't know that your ship was... He had kind of heard of Rin and Rin's crew, but he didn't know, that your ship was the Andromeda and all this stuff was going on. So, but when you did set up a meeting with him, he was more than willing to meet with you.
Mm-hmm.
And...
he might be a jaded and evil pirate captain, who has decided that honor is meaningless and that everything that he saw in Cheliax was a lie, but he still was going to meet with these other people who also had a similar life trajectory to him. To
being people who grew up in Cheliax and were expected to be part of the Navy and then became pirates.
Mm-hmm.
He thought you guys were legit and probably trustworthy.
That's right.
So
you can tell we're trustworthy former Chalice people who are now pirates, like Endymion, based on our random Greek mythological names thrown in. Like Endymion.
That's true. So even when you guys gave him some news that he really, really didn't want to hear, He certainly asked you for proof that this is what was going on, but when you laid everything out,
Oh, what was at the address that we got? Did we have that before we?
oh,
talked
the address was also the warehouse.
The same lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were two. It's one of those mysteries where multiple clues point to the same place, so you don't get stuck.
We didn't necessarily have to shave all of the yaks.
But you did anyway.
We did anyway.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he was not thrilled, like I said, and he needed some proof. But when you gave him that proof, he decided that he was going to bring in his harbor quartermaster for some more questioning.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided, and that this was a bigger problem, and that he wanted to work with you. Yes. This is a euphemism. But he basically was, he wanted to work with you guys to try to unravel this plot. And
yep.
He didn't, you guys, I believe, did go ahead and tell him that Tessa was
didn't.
Involved in this? No, you didn't?
Nope. And then after that, we told other people that, and Endymion sent us because Tessa didn't want us.
I knew you told other people that you didn't tell even him. Okay, you didn't even tell him that Tessa started on this.
Because
okay.
Tessa said that she was seen as too much of a partisan and that this needed to come from someone who's more neutral. And Endymion was seen as being not in either of the two factions. So
yes.
We didn't tell him, and then we told other people, because he did say, hey, you should keep investigating this. They literally have a dash that means that they don't think I can be bribed, but it might also mean they want to kill me. And they suborned my harbor quartermaster.
He knew that the dash for pirates meant capture and execute.
From his own time as a Charge Admiral.
Yes.
But so he definitely wanted us to continue investigating, and we used that fact to not be lying when we said that Endymion told us to do things later on, and we just never told anybody that Tessa sent us on the initial trail.
So the ledger itself also had a note that said to send for Corlon, and you guys did try to find this Corlon who was also on the same Hell's Harbor island.
Who is a Tengu, and there's a picture of a Tengu.
Yes.
And so the fact that last time when we were in the smoke and Linda was saying, oh, and that's when you did things with Corlon, and I was like, hold on, there was a lot of yak shaving before we got to Corlon.
Well, that was 2 times ago when we were in the lesser smoke.
What?
It was 2 episodes ago when we were in the lesser smoke.
You're right.
But there was still smoke.
It was a lesser smoke.
Yeah.
And that was when we stopped and said, we need to read the yak shaving, because there was definitely a lot of yak shaving before we got to Corlon. And there was a lot of yak shaving, and it all got listed together as Corlon and yak shaving XP.
Yes.
Which made it harder to see, and Corlon's name was first, which made it hard to see where the yak shaving was.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, it was partially just because this is something that we played out over the course of like just a couple of days of play, and I wasn't going to try to break that down into little pieces in what order they came in. It was just all the XP.
Plus, this thing with Corlon is legitimately not a yak shave. It is related. Like,
yes.
There were multiple notes from both of the spies that they wanted to go after this Corlon, or Corlon was on their side.
So the spy guy is definitely connected to this, and he's like a legit person.
Yeah, the guy who was in the Piranhas had the Tengu, and the spy harbor quartermaster had Corlon. So this is a legitimate lead.
Yes. That's probably why I split it out from yak shaving.
Yep.
So you guys found him, and because of the timing of plot, the assassin that was after him was there right at that very moment, so that you could dramatically save him from death.
Plot? No, it was Besmara's will.
Yes, the will of Besmara.
Hector, it was Besmara's will that we arrived there at exactly that moment.
So you arrived there at exactly that moment, and you see on the roof
but
there
actually, you made it so it wasn't literally that moment. We knew that they were sending someone after him, so we actually...
You actually got there before.
We got there in advance. We sort of staked out, and we were pretending to just be these drunken people moving along.
That's right.
And because we could have gotten him out of there safely because we did it so quickly, but we actually wanted to capture the assassin because we assumed that the assassin could, at worst case, we could speak with dead with the assassin or use other magic to figure out who sent the assassin.
This is their confidence. Worst case, we can speak with dead with the assassin after we defeat him.
Yes. I mean, the Tengu might be killed, but...
Yep. And you guys indeed did find the crossbow assassin Giles Helmus, a famous
Yes.
bounty hunter.
Thankfully for us, that this person has 2 words in their name, one of which indicates that they will be very skilled, and the other of which indicates that they will be useless. They had assassin and crossbow. And so, since it was Pathfinder First Edition. And so, thankfully, he was a crossbow assassin, and that is why the Tengu survived. If he was a longbow assassin, no chance.
Yes. So so you guys were able to take down the rooftop sniping assassin. You guys flew in the case of Rin and quickly climbed in the case of others up onto the roof. Aram, I believe, had flight by this point as well.
I think that he could walk, he could freeze the air and walk on it.
Yeah. That's right, freezing the air. He had a way to get up into the air. So you guys got up onto the roof.
Left behind, like, ice trails.
Yes. And you were able to capture the assassin. And
or either that, or maybe he had flight from his air side. I can't remember anymore. No, he did have flight from his air side.
Maybe it was,
right.
Whatever.
Right.
I knew
right.
I knew that he had a way to get into the air and maneuver. Yes, the real Kitsune Warlock says the real nuisance with rooftop snipers is they never pay for broken shingles.
You're right. He had air from extra wall talent.
I thought that he did.
He had flying, not walking on the ice.
I knew for a fact that he had a way to get into the air.
Yep.
But you guys were able to capture and question this assassin, and he said
it was a close call.
Yeah. He was dangerous. I mean, he did have Deathblade poison bolts. Like, that's not the safest thing.
And we had to go over, and Hector had to go over there and treat the poison wound on the Tengu.
Yeah. The Tengu almost didn't make it. I mean, you guys were obviously going to be fine. But you guys got him to divulge what his contract was, in exchange for his life, because he may be a professional, but he's a pirate professional.
He also just never liked the person who hired him.
He also never really liked the person who hired him. He thought that she was pretty arrogant, and she sold good poison, but he didn't really like working for her.
So we spared him. We took all of his gear, and then just to make sure, just in case he was somewhat lying and wanted to inform this person, we left him at a place that was pretty far from a town, so that we would have time to take out his employer, but wasn't that dangerous. So it's like, you're an assassin. You can obviously sneak back to town and survive. We have all your magic items, and you don't have enough time to get information to her if that we're coming for her. And the Tengu himself had some information as well, I think. Not much.
Not much that he didn't really have anything useful that you guys hadn't already found, but he did admit to working with some groups that he suspected were probably tied to Chelish, but he didn't really care because they paid well. And so you guys headed to the Jasper Leaf Apothecary, which is the business of Zarskia, the one who was pulling the strings.
The number one Chelish spy who had set up everything else in motion.
Yes. And the Jasper Leaf Apothecary was well guarded by a variety of by a rotating staff of guards, because she knew that not only was she doing the spy stuff, but she also had a lot of valuable poison, so she really didn't want to.
We managed to sneak in from a really weird direction. Yeah, I'm not sure if the AP lists that there's an easy way to get in from a really weird direction.
No, it doesn't. But you just found it anyway.
But is there like a door or somewhere that is?
Didn't you come in? I think did you fly up for like the 3rd floor balcony doors or something like that? I actually don't remember how you got in.
I think that we wound up something like that. We came in from either the very top or the very bottom. And we wound up sneaking past a fair number of the encounters and taking her out.
Yeah.
Taking her out first.
Well, because if you come in more on the, I know that you guys did encounter the strange snake cat creature, the advanced dust cometa and Shimmeray.
But only after we sneaked past it, very painstakingly.
Yes.
At first.
who had taken over much of the second floor and just basically shredded the library there for betting. And
Yep.
she didn't really care too much about the value of a lot
we
of things.
found there was like a shortcut between the first and the third floor or something like that that made it let us go past the second floor. And we did that at first because we were worried she had weird special senses that would notice us if we got anywhere close.
So you guys managed to avoid fighting encounters until you made it into Zarskia's lab itself.
I think that we may have had to fight some of her mercenary guards, but we were
Did
able.
you?
We may have had to fight them, but we were able to. If we did, we were able to defeat them in like one round before they could.
I know that there was no alarm raised. So if you fought them, you fought them quietly before they took any actions.
Yep.
So that you may have there.
We either fought them from a surprise round before they took any
or
actions,
you fought them after you fought her.
After we fought her and they just surrendered.
Yeah.
I can't remember right now.
There were no challenging fights
like
there.
That.
Yeah, there were no challenging fights, and you guys did a lot of infiltrations.
And she set things up.
She had
in a
toxic
weird
door
way.
handles and like weird poison smoke and all kinds of stuff going on.
Yep.
So she's an alchemist.
Alive.
You took her alive, yes. And she was easier because she hadn't had a chance to pre-buff, which is pretty deadly for an alchemist.
Also, our other captive alchemist guy, the guy who tried to kill us from Spices and Flesh, was thrilled to see the formula book from Zarskia.
Yeah. It's like, here, you could use this formula
we
book.
told him that that we would be buying him new formulas for the extracts that we wanted as part of he was forced to make us all of his extracts every day to make up for nearly killing us. We had bought some, paid with our own money up before that point, but here he just got a whole bunch more. I think that was the point where he decided that his alchemical research was been helped so much by this that he was no longer like as mad about the fact that we locked him up and made him give infusions all the time, given that he did try to murder us.
Yeah. At that point, he's like, okay, fine, even after I've paid this off, I do want to keep working for you guys.
Because we definitely could have treated someone who literally tried to poison us when he was pretending to be hospitable a lot worse if we were pirates.
Yep.
Which we are. But Zarskia was more loyal to the Challenge cause than we expected from just some random turncoat in the sense that she was not going to sing like a canary like every other step of the way had done. She was maybe more afraid than like literally loyal, but nonetheless there was a lot of damning evidence that she didn't have time to
get rid of down in her secret basement.
Yep.
Down in her secret basement.
We definitely started on the top floor and we made it to her secret basement without fighting the Commandant until after we had taken care of her.
And she wasn't able to burn the papers, so you were able to find that she was the one who put the hit out on everyone else to try to clean up the evidence. And there was a letter in Infernal that said, "Silence is now key. Our plans will go into full force once our agent finishes his preparations. Destroy any remaining evidence and discreetly sell your business. Report to Nizrock for your next assignment." So there was definitely enough evidence at this point. Like, you already had enough evidence that there was something going on, but definitely enough evidence here that you guys were able to give that both to Endymion, who you showed what had been going on in more detail.
We gave it to Endymion because we wanted him to send it to the Pirate Council because we could do it. Like that was Tessa's plan, was for us to do it, and we're outsiders.
Yeah, there was enough for you to give to both Endymion and to satisfy Tessa, but you went to Endymion first.
Yes, but we wanted Endymion to present it because we thought Tessa would be real happy with that because it could be from us, which is not Tessa, so it doesn't seem like a partisan for Tessa. But if it's from a neutral pirate lord, with corroborating evidence, because some people suspected he might be the traitor, and they might be like, well, you're just trying to make it look like you're not the traitor. Enough corroborating evidence, and he could call on us to report, then that should be better for Tessa's schemes. And I think she was very pleased by the whole ability to wash her hands of it and make it seem like it was coming entirely from Endymion.
And I think this is going to be a good stopping point here, because there's going to be sort of the report on this information as well as some other major events coming up here. But we have now untangled the snarling web of yak hair.
Yes.
And gotten to a place that's a little more straightforward in terms of the events.
That's right. And I knew there was a big yak shaving there. I just didn't remember exactly which steps of yak shaving that we'd had to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But we did get through it. We did, and
yes, we did.
now know about the Cellist plot, and the fact that the Cellist Navy is definitely planning something, and that there's next steps that were actually in Nadal for this person. It didn't like prove that it was the Cellist Navy, but it was really, really likely, and there was a lot of other evidence.
I mean, there's a lot of things written in Infernal, and like somebody had sent an imp after, and she'd sent an imp after someone to try to assassinate them, and like this is just Chiliac's fingerprints are all over this.
Mm-hmm.
Like the logbook of with the names of people, like Endymion was able to confirm that the way that things were written and some of the shorthand that was used in that logbook is like totally Chellish code.
Infernal Chellish opera codes.
Yeah, it's all sorts of evidence there.
Yep.
So
a preponderance of evidence.
Preponderance of evidence, yes. So let's go ahead and say goodbye to YouTube here.
Bye, YouTube. See you next time.
Bye.